Welcome to the Backpack Show, everybody, where we bring you business success insights from unusual places. And speaking of unusual places, Chris Brogan is opening PubCon today. So he's in Miami, which is not his usual place. But I'm really excited to start the show today because we are going to talk about fitness. We're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about some wild business travel stories and lessons you can learn from them. So we are going to do this right now, or now-ish, I should say.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gargone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
You know, I say a lot that backstage is probably my favorite part of the experience and part of what owners of our backpack coin get if they have a rally.io account. They can buy the chance to come backstage and hang out. And it's really fun. So today was a great example of that. We have Ken Pasternak waiting backstage. He's the author of a book called Exploding Turkeys and Spare Trousers, Adventures in Global Business. So we'll talk with him in just a few minutes. But first, we're going to talk to Kyle, Valery, and Chris Wilke of The Stretch Effect about the difference between health and fitness and how a lot of people are getting it wrong. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
So when we were backstage chit-chatting, you were talking about how like slick and professional everything looks. I feel obligated to tell you that it's purely StreamYard, like it's not me. And the show's actually sponsored by StreamYard. So if you want to have a cool, professional, super slick looking show, you can. Just go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Get your own fitness experts, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There we go.
So Kyle and Chris, can you tell me about the Stretch Effect? Like what the fitness and health markets are so crowded. What makes this different? Why did you give this a go?
Well, I mean, the fact that there's a lot of people that want to move is a beautiful thing, right? We love that fact. At the end of the day, though, it's about how you move and why you're doing what you're doing, and if your body can actually do that. And so our world that we've created at Stretch Effect is more of the best of physical therapy meets personal training. So we really own the short end side of it, where we find out what's really going on with your body. And then we can take you through the full spectrum into more performance training or stuff that you see that you actually want to do more of.
So what's the difference then between fitness as a lot of people perceive it and health, like more generally?
Obviously, health is much more broad, but a lot of us associate directly fitness with health. Like I need to be able to run or do cardio or lift weights or whatever it may be, or how I look is
going to make me healthier.
Is healthier,
right? They're like a byproduct of the process.
But fitness, you're only allowed to do fitness without the risk of injury if you have health first. And so we kind of preach health first, and health is obviously the emotional, mental, spiritual, physical side of everything. And if we just look at the physical, there's a lot that goes into health before you can really express it in fitness. And so what we do is we really look at the quality of your movement. We look at your joint health. We look at your tissue quality, and then the underlying lifestyle factors that may be influencing those things. So it's having the foundation first. Health is the foundation, and then you can express that health in whatever way you want. But if you go straight to the fitness, a lot of times you're going to get frustrated. You're going to break, things are going to happen that are not desirable necessarily. If you focus on and by the way, a lot of times it's compensatory, right? We're focusing on this aesthetic, these goals that might not necessarily get us how we really want to feel, which is healthy and whole. The fitness is ultimately an expression that comes from first feeling healthy and whole, and then we can pursue the fitness, the aesthetic type goals.
Were you chubby kids? Were you picked last in gym class? I need to know. What's the journey?
Yeah. I was a wee little fella, but I was also young because I started in San Diego and then moved to Texas, and so I had people like 3 grades below me that were older than me, and so I was always on the smaller side. So I like to do weightlifting and played all the sports, baseball, basketball, track, and stuff like that. I was always very athletic, but it was always more hobby turned profession for me more than anything else. And I think Chris was probably on the more athletic side with football and with a lot of the other like higher level sports. I was always fairly mediocre at best, but I owned that, so it was okay.
Yeah, I think what allowed us to pivot a little from the more fitness bodybuilding side was that we weren't neither of us were really like had this emotional tie to like losing a bunch of weight or anything like that. It was more like, what's the best way to do all of this? And we enjoyed doing the resistance training, the strength training side of it. But ultimately, once we started working with people, it was like, I just want to provide the best service for people. And then that's when we realized that things were broken, because if you just pursue a career in fitness, you're missing out on the movement health side of things. And so we ultimately, both of us ended up going to manual therapy school separately, before we really even talked about it. And that's where we linked up and started sharing ideas and stuff, because we saw this disconnect between what the physical therapy chiropractic world was doing and what we were trying to do in fitness. And there wasn't a really solid bridge between the two worlds. And so what we're trying to do is create a very, very firm, solid bridge where everyone can communicate the same language. And in our facility, you get it all. You don't have to go outside to another practitioner. We take you from ground floor, step one, to the performance side and guide you along the way.
You said manual therapy. I feel like I need to know what that is.
So
is that like feel better? Shake
yeah,
kind of. Yeah, it's like a structured version of massage, right? So massage is kind of very general, right? There's like a concept with massage. So with manual therapy, it's more specific. So we're gonna have more like orthopedic type assessments, and then we're gonna find very specific structures, and then we're gonna release those very specific structures, versus it just being more of like a general overall well-being that we're trying to create from a parasympathetic massage or something like that.
So structures, is that like
muscle, tendon, ligament, all of it. So
all
like
of that stuff.
Like let's say you might be more familiar with like a compressive type of massage that's very linear and soothing and all that. That can be like a Swedish, a deep tissue, a parasympathetic sort of massage. What's lacking there is typically the joint movement with it, and then the palpation or the feeling that the elite practitioners get when you have your hands on structures when they're moving. So we don't just observe the movement quality visually. We have to put our hands on structures and then move your joints to see what areas might be sticky, what architecture isn't optimized. And then when we do that, we can use techniques like active release technique, functional range release, if it's a sticky spot or an adhesion sort of thing. And then if it's more of a neurological thing, we have totally different modalities we use. So it's not like, oh, hey, this is an issue, let's massage it out. First, we have to determine what the problem is. And that's what most people don't understand. Even practitioners don't understand. If it's more like tissue mechanically related, or if it's more nervous system related, we have to use different interventions in order to kind of hack the body and improve.
This all sounds like the kind of thing interrogators give scholarships for, like to go to school.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, generally speaking, the hard part is that most people do not care about anything that we're talking about because it doesn't make any sense. But at the end of the day, it's more of an experiential thing. So when you come in and like, even our clients have the hardest time, like, I don't even understand how to express this or explain this to people because it's just very technical. Like the process that we go through is very technical. And, we've had the blessing of being able to work with some professional athletes and higher level people or people who have been in a system for a long time. So they've had a lot of injuries and been in chiropractic and physical therapy for many years. Those people understand more. Like we're usually like the third or fourth place people would eventually go. Like usually people will start their fitness journey at like a gym or an Orange Theory or something like that, very general. Then they'll get some halfway broken through that process. Then they'll go through their insurance, and then they'll go to some like kind of mill-based physical therapy place. And then they'll kind of get better, but not really. And then go back to doing the thing that originally broke them and get more broken. And then they'll get really frustrated. And then they'll finally start seeking out like experts, right? And then when they're on that journey, that's usually where they would find somebody like us. And then not that we're experts, but we try and be good at what we do.
I mean, I hope you're experts if you're in the structures.
And then ultimately that's when they find something different that doesn't really exist in another place, because we do service a client just like you would at a Ritz-Carlton, something of that nature. It's not like this medical thing that's very, I don't care how you feel, I'm just here to treat your body. We try and make sure that people are comfortable and feel happy and that we're part of their journey, and that we're supporting them in every different way that we can ultimately.
Yeah.
How is it that you're getting the word out there? Like you'd mentioned that you have worked with celebrities or you've worked with high profile athletes and stuff like that. How did they find out about you and what you're doing?
That's the hard part, is that because we're doing something unique, it's been difficult for us to convey the message, right? The elite athletes, they look for us. So they like, you know, they look for us on the directories.
Certifications. Yeah, there's like certifications that we have, and there's directories. And so that will get found that way. Like there you're seeing like the next one down was like a Manny Machado thing. Like we worked with him last season, and he found us on like the ART website. The USA Rugby, Carlin Isles, you know, he actually found us through Instagram, which we hate, but you know, Tommy is another gentleman that, you know, he actually got word of mouth through Manny and online and stuff. But you know, we've had businesses for a long time before we started this business. So, you know, we've had our own business for like 15 years independently, and kind of started to collaborate under one roof to really create more of a system of systems that is more inclusive and has more diversity with it, and has a little bit more robust offering than just something that's a singular component of it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the hard part for us has been because, as Kyle mentioned, we've created a little bit of a different offering and experience, but people don't really understand why they need us. And so that's why for us, the warmest introductions have always been word of mouth, you know, and for our in-person business, they always will be, because we're not cheap, and we know that we're not for everyone because of that. But when you get to a certain point, your overall well-being, your health, you know, your state of mind is more important than the dollar amount associated with the service. So, you know, it's one of those things where when somebody says to their friend, look, this is a different experience, like, and they already have that trust. Yeah. Then someone comes in our door, then they experience that it's an easy process. Yeah. When explaining what we do and why it's different, just like we're doing right now, is a long conversation, and it's not the easiest done on a website, on social media, you know what I mean? So there's pieces to the equation, and we're trying to get better about expressing that message, which is why we're talking to you. We're trying to hash this all out on the go.
You're like,
help us
figure
explain
it out. Elizabeth says I should focus on not being a pre-diabetic rather than being cute in my jeans.
That is a healthy position to take. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Scott Woodard says, as I've aged, I've noticed more issues with joints and stretching with seemingly simple activities. Do we older folks benefit from your work?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things is that, you know, we service all types. So we have youth, we have, I'm trying to think, how old's our oldest? Like Marty's like 73, 74. I think like mid 70s, you know, we have one client who's like almost 80. You know, the point is that we all have to respond. Our bodies are all going to age at a different capacity. Mm-hmm. And so we have to understand what some of our potential limitations are and where the risks fall. But ultimately, the work that we do is absolutely for everyone, and we tailor it to the individual. So, you know, a lot of people get really caught up in like the athlete side of it and see this high performance component of it. But really, it's about optimized functioning and well-being. And so we really want to make sure that you have the ability to do the things that you want to do, whether that's play with your grandkids or go run a marathon or whatever those things are. And it's not our job to judge you for what you are or aren't doing. It's our job to give you the tools and resources to be better at those things.
Yeah. And you're really like most people, once they stop moving well, playing sports, they enter some sort of desk job, sedentary life. There's
everybody in 2020.
Yeah, like everybody in our society, unfortunately. Yeah. And so there's this degradation of movement quality, joint health that tends to occur. Well, most people don't understand. I think Kyle came up with this first, but we like to think about joint health as like oral hygiene, right? Like if you talk to somebody and they said they didn't floss or brush every day, that would be quite odd, right? It's the same thing with self-care. It's the same thing with joint movement. So the reason we lose movement quality, the reason we lose joint architecture over time is usually because of lack of movement, because we're not expressing our full range of each of our joints. So no matter what age you are, the most important thing is first you stop the decline. First you stop losing what you do have. You want to be able to maintain that through your entire life, and you can do that just by expressing the movement that you have available to you now. Then we build upon that. But first and foremost, let's stop the loss.
And they're like very like basic, like easy things that you can do, right? Like that's the point, is that there's like technical stuff that you can do that's like highly like, I don't understand all this, need coaching, whatever. But even if you were to fully move your shoulder joint
independently,
nobody,
of the rest of your body,
you don't really do that randomly. You know what I mean? And so that's like part of the problem, is that we sit in these very like linear paths, and we're in this like 3-dimensional rotary world. And so when stuff gets locked up, that's when it all goes sideways. And then we get these compensation patterns, and then we get pain. And then we do something because something was asked of us. And then we have an injury. And then now we're like, hey, I care. It really matters to me now because I'm hurt. And then you're like, well, come on now. And so that's where like the whole oral hygiene thing came in, because like even when you look at oral health in the United States, for example, it wasn't really until the 50s. And Crest was a company in like the early 1900s. And so the intervention was there. It wasn't socially a norm. And so then after the soldiers came back from the war, they noticed that Europeans were actually doing this, and they started to actually change the behaviors, and that trickled down through our society. Now, if I ask you if you brush your teeth on a regular basis, you're going to be like looking at me sideways, because you're like, that's almost rude that you're inferring that I don't do that. And so, but if I said, hey, how often do you move the joints in your body? And you're like,
So you're working off like a 200-year plan.
Yeah.
Starting now,
like societal behavior changes, right? Like we can influence the direct people that we talk about here, but when we really look at like large scale change, it does take time.
And it's going to be with the youth. I mean, that's really like our big mission is to educate the youth on how to take care of their bodies, because most people are set in their ways already. But if we give kids an inkling of knowledge and understanding and awareness about how to keep their bodies healthy through life, they're going to explore that, or at the very least, they're going to understand something doesn't feel right. I need to find a coach that can set me straight. I need to find a coach that can help me out. And so if that becomes a norm, if joint health, we're identifying 6-year-olds, first graders that have postural issues now, and if you have postural issues, you're going to have mechanical issues and joint issues as well. There's no way around that. So if we're identifying it in 6-year-olds, what does that mean for people that are in their 20s and 30s? We're going to have earlier joint replacements. We're going to have earlier osteoarthritis, all of those things. You add the inflammatory diet and the stressors of our world into that, and that's a toxic equation, right? So we have to plant the seed early on and teach kids, look, how you feel, like movement quality is correlative or it directly relates to quality of life. So if we can teach movement quality early on, we can help to improve the quality of life of our world. Then that's kind of a conversation we'd like to be a part of.
Which is health, not fitness.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, I have more questions, but you have to wait a little bit because I'm going to talk to Ken Pasternak first. And before I do that, I have just a couple of things. But don't go anywhere because we have more questions. Please.
No sweat.
Okay. So we are sponsored by Castos.com. So if you don't want to look at us, you just want to listen to us, you have Castos.com to thank for the fact that our podcast is available everywhere fine podcasts can be found. If you want to have your own audio podcast, go to Castos.com. They'll host your audio files and syndicate them to all the places people like to go. Hey, would you like a .online domain? I'll bet you would. And you can have one for 99 cents for a whole year if you use the code Chris, all caps, CHRIS, Chris, if you want a .online domain. The only one that I know is not available is Your Mom Is .online, because I looked first thing and it was gone. So, hey, would you like to do some internet research, but you don't want to use the big guy? Okay, go to presearch.com, the decentralized search engine. Stick it to the man. You can earn crypto rewards, and it's a pretty fantastic search engine as it happens. So go check that out. And we're sponsored by Mitch Jackson, streaming.lawyer. He is California's best trial attorney. So if you get yourself into a sticky situation or you just need some information, Mitch is a great resource. Go to streaming.lawyer. Okay, now we're going to talk to Ken Pasternak, and I'm so excited about this. Ken, welcome.
Hi, Carrie. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you. So we have to talk about the title to your book. I feel like a lot of people have questions. Exploding
it's great for getting attention. I'll tell you, the title is based on 2 stories that are included in the book. The book has 53 short stories, 1 page. The book came about because I was writing stories like this on LinkedIn, and a lot of people were reacting to it and said, hey, you should collect some of these in a book. So I collected those and added many more. And because I've been in training and teaching and consulting for many years, I had to add a lesson to each of the stories. So at the end of each of these short stories, there's a little truth or takeaway about life or business. And the exploding turkeys story resonates with a lot of people. I actually call it irony as a title because it happened when my wife and I and our kids moved to Istanbul, Turkey in the 1980s. And as part of taking over an apartment, the people who were leaving asked us if we could take on their maid, which is not unusual in a place like Istanbul. And we said, sure. She came in the morning. She left in the evening. Name was Aisha. And we wanted to host a Thanksgiving party our first year there. So my wife said, I'll take Aisha. We'll go to the butcher's and we'll order some turkeys. Well, the problem was we were still learning Turkish. Aisha didn't speak English. So when my wife got to the butcher, she ordered 2 big chickens because she knew how to say büyük tavuklar, big chickens. And Aisha didn't help at all.
She called them big chickens. I feel like they might get mad.
Well, they said they nodded their heads and they said, well, we'll take care of that. So we had the party. We put the chickens into the oven. And while they were cooking, all of a sudden we started to hear pop, 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 and then a big explosion. And what had happened was to make these chickens look bigger, the butcher had injected under the skin water. So as the water heated up in the oven, the water boiled, exploded, and the chickens exploded. So that's our exploding turkeys. However, the irony is, once we got to know Aisha, because we had just had her working with us for a few weeks, we finally learned her surname. And her surname was Hindi. And in Turkish, Hindi is the word for the bird we call turkey. So here we are.
Full circle.
Came full circle. Yeah. So that's where that part of that title comes from.
So is that the craziest story in the book? Because I feel like it's not even. I think it just made for the best title. And now I need to know.
Oh, gee, the craziest story. That's a bit unfair to ask from my point of view. But
nobody said I was fair, Ken.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect so. Here's a story which really got the most reactions on LinkedIn. So I had to include it. I was going to a meeting not far from my apartment building. And I was wearing khaki trousers and a blue shirt like the one I'm wearing now. And I walked to a nearby hotel to meet a potential client. And it started to pour. And it came down like crazy. And as I'm walking there, my pants were totally drenched, even though I had an umbrella, by the way.
Well, yeah, because the umbrella doesn't go like all the way down.
It doesn't go all the way down. And it was windy and it was raining sideways. So as I approached the hotel, I saw one of those secondhand clothing stores, not high-end, but normal secondhand stores, of which we have many more in Finland and Helsinki now than we had 15, 20 years ago. And I went in. I went to the very small men's rack they had downstairs, and I found a pair of khakis, looked at the label, and they were my size. So I grabbed them, didn't try them on, paid, went to the hotel, went to the men's room, changed into these new khaki trousers, went to my meeting. Meeting finished. When I came out, the sun was shining. I walked home. And as I walked in the door, my wife said, I thought you'd be much more wet from the outburst of rain that we saw. And I told her the story of buying these trousers. And she looked at me and started laughing. And she uncontrollably couldn't stop laughing. And finally, when she finished, she said, you know what you did? You just rebought the trousers that you donated a month ago to that very, very store.
That explains why they fit so good.
Exactly. They paid 13 euros, I don't know, $15, $18 for a pair of trousers that I had donated to charity.
It was meant to be.
Pretty much the takeaway. It was meant to be. Serendipity.
Elizabeth says, "Oh my, I was thinking that Ken was going to talk about potato launchers. His story is better, especially if you're not the best cook. Can you imagine? Be like, I'm sorry, everyone, dinner exploded. So whatever. But we haven't talked about why you did so much business traveling, and I feel like that would help add context. So can you tell everybody what you were doing that required you to be all these places?"
Well, I grew up in Westchester County, just outside of New York City. Went to high school in New York area, went to university, went to Yale. And when I graduated, I studied a year in Paris. And I just fell in love with France and Paris and being abroad, traveling a little bit. But I ran out of money. I needed to get a job. So I ended up coming back to New York, did a very systematic search, and I found that I would enjoy, I thought, going into corporate banking. And I was hired by Citibank.
What? Wait, why?
Yeah. I'm a people person. I was good with numbers. I was actually an engineering major in college, but I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to work in sciences. So, and I knew some people who worked there. My roommate had gone there. I was a ringer on their softball team during the summer, so I got to meet a lot of their people in Central Park. And it was great. I went to it like duck in water. I was a sponge. I just loved learning about economics, finance, accounting, which I knew nothing about. And the bank put me through programs. And I did that for 6 years. But every time I had a performance review, I said, "Can I go overseas, please?" So finally, after 6 years, they sent me to London. And after a few years, I ended up in Finland, in Helsinki, to set up Citibank in Helsinki, where I met my Finnish wife. Then we went to Istanbul. Then we went to Brussels. And then I left Citibank and we ended up going back to London to work for a different bank called the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development.
That sounds very important. It sounds like serious grown-up work.
I was moving away from being a banker and more getting involved in strategy and assisting organizations on culture development and leadership and teamwork. And after a few years in London, I outsourced my team. It's a long story. And we moved back to Finland and I became a consultant. And I've been doing that since 1996. You just put on the screen one of the books which I've found has been most enjoyable for me. It's called Performance at the Limit, Business Lessons from Formula One Motor Racing. This is the 3rd edition. It's been translated into Japanese and Chinese and Turkish.
Well, naturally, what I do Turkish.
I'm actually just signed up to go give a speech in Turkey at the end of September about this, because the Formula One races are going back to Istanbul in the beginning of October, COVID allowing, of course.
Right.
So to answer your question, all of this has allowed me to travel to Middle East, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the US, teaching programs, advising, coaching leaders, and it's been a great ride.
What lessons have you taken from the business travel that you've done that apply more broadly? This is a business success show, so what lessons do you have based on your business travel experiences that would help people to succeed?
I think one has to be very sensitive to different cultures. I do a lot of work in cross-cultural communication and understanding how to lead and manage in different cultures. It's not just a language issue. It's not just a food issue or the way people dress. There are different mindsets based on history of different ways of looking at life, whether it's from a religious point of view or from a cultural point of view. So one of the key lessons is keep an open mind. Be prepared to learn, be prepared to understand, and not try to impose your approach and your ways of thinking on other people who may come at it from a different point of view. And I must say, Carrie, that being married to a woman who's from a different culture, English is her 3rd or 4th language. We're constantly trying to understand each other. We're constantly misunderstanding, whether it's a language issue or a cultural issue.
She still thinks you're roommates.
Sometimes it's great fun and we laugh a lot. Sometimes it's very, very disconcerting. So open mind, learn, be receptive to new ways of thinking.
Well, it seems like my co-host has a way of thinking about how I should run the show because he's chiming in from Miami to say, what makes for a good story, Ken? And also, apropos of nothing, I just passed by a trash truck driver wearing a ball bag. Is that what you just said? And my driver just blasted Genie in a Bottle, so I can't hear Ken. Well, tougho. He's about to answer your question, so
well, he's going to have to listen to the. He's going to have to listen to the replay on
or
this.
put the captions on YouTube.
Yeah. What makes a great story? The way I've approached it is that they're authentic and they're genuine. They're not me making up fairy tales. I just have an affinity for remembering all of these incidents and then structuring them in a way in which, you know, you set out something that could grab the reader's interest, develop the story, and then try to come back at the end of the story with the zinger, if you will. And I must tell you that LinkedIn helped a lot, because when I started to write these on LinkedIn, they limited the number of characters to 1,300. So I found myself writing these stories and then editing and editing and editing to make them concise and very, very, very strong in the way the message came across. So
Coach Woodard says his wife's first language is English, and they're still trying to understand each other. His wife's first language.
I hear you. I hear you.
Amazing. So I have to choose a person of the day, and I'm pretty excited about this actually, because I usually don't get to do it. It's usually like Chris picking whoever he feels like, and he does not ask my opinion. So.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
So in possibly an unprecedented move, I'm going to pick Chris for making an inappropriate comment about posture so that I can yellow card him remotely, like while he's out on the road.
Boom shakalaka! Yellow card, Brogan. And Brogan is going down like a bag of hammers tonight.
Thank you for that, boss. Appreciate it. So now I'm going to bring out our Stretch Effect co-founders. And we're going to have a little more conversation. But let me first, Ken, ask if there's any one thing you think everybody needs to take away from your book, like a reason they should go out and buy it. What's going to be the key lesson they learn?
Well, it's an easy summer read, actually, because they are short stories. You can start anywhere. You can go in order. You can jump around. And what I really hope, of the 53 stories, there will be some takeaways that resonate, that really mean something to someone, whether in their business life or their personal life. And if I can tell one quick story, I went to a conference where there was a speaker to a group of us who were all road warriors. We were traveling like crazy. And he gave us, the speaker at the end of the day gave a speech, and he told a story about someone who worked all his life, saved money for space in the woods to build his cabin. And of course he retires. And as you can guess, the story goes that he dropped dead from a heart attack the day after he retired and never got to build his cabin.
That's an upper, Ken. Thanks for sharing.
And what, the story here clearly is smell the roses, stop along the road, and make sure that you live each day to its fullest.
I think that's an important lesson for all of us. Kyle and Chris,
yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
What'd you think of the exploding turkeys?
I mean, it was good.
Looking forward to diving in.
I'll make sure to cook my chickens like that.
I need many lessons, so.
It'll have to be an audiobook, so you can work on this.
Yeah, I narrated the audiobook, so you'll hear my voice if you.
Ooh, I like that. I like it when authors do that, actually.
Oh, love it.
Great.
Coach Woodard says only 3 more person of the day titles, Chris, and you get a smoking jacket. That's because Coach Woodard was person of the day so often. He wanted to be taken out of contention. He felt like he was hogging it. And instead of doing that, we chose him like 7 more times and then sent him a smoking jacket. So
sounds about right.
People are celebrating Chris. So one of the things that occurs to me is that frequent business travelers are going to have terrible posture and probably some physical issues that need addressing. So are there signs, Chris and Kyle, that people should look for that might indicate a problem is starting?
Oh yeah,
Pain is a good one to start with.
Discomfort. Pain and discomfort, and those usually come after stuff's already been going wrong for a little while.
Yep.
You know, it's the lack of movement, right? And so hopefully one day we'll have planes that are more conducive to actually moving around a little bit. But for right now, it's get up as much as possible, move every joint as much as possible. Maybe we'll develop a little routine for for airplane mobility.
The frequent traveler edition.
Yeah, but it's not the easiest situation. That's
yes, Chris, we got you.
He's so excited. He's person of the day. He's like, I thought person of the day meant you were done, and I'm like, you settle down. You're not here. I can do whatever I want, whatever order I want. So, have you seen these plane? I want to call them seats, but they're not seats. They're like trying to make economy now to where you lean. Have you seen those? They're like
literally the
up.
word.
Oh, yes, you're on an incline, standing almost. I've tried to bring those into EasyJet or some Ryanair or
just
somewhere.
to lean, like
sounds like a money grab. It's not necessarily for your health, obviously. So
no. I'm thinking if
but
that
that's
happens.
a great market for you, Kyle and Chris. Having been there, done that.
Absolutely.
Finding routines when I got off the plane and got to the hotel to stretch, limber up, swim, whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Extremely important.
Maybe maybe we'll have a program in the Sky Mall one of these days.
My favorite magazine.
Wow, you love it as much as you love Instagram. This is
sky's
the limit.
Almost more.
So
in the old days, I don't know if they still do it. When Virgin Air started to fly from London to New York, you had a choice of a manicure or a back massage if you were in business class.
Yeah, they don't.
Okay.
And it was great. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Did any people ever go for like off menu options in that scenario?
No comment.
It wasn't just a warm towel.
Everyone, we've asked this question of everybody from Sir Mix-a-Lot to Sister Anne Flanagan to Mistress Harley to the many authors we've had on. So I'm going to ask you now, Chris, Kyle, and Ken, what goes in your backpack for success? We're in shifting sands. Everything is uncertain. You can only carry what you can take in a backpack. Your answer could be physical, like an extra set of teeth, or it could be metaphorical, something like hope for the future or kindness. So what would you put in the backpack, Ken?
Well, traveling to me means being on an airplane. So my backpack is my carry-on. And the physical are two things. My Kindle, so I can catch up on my reading. And the other is the New York Times crossword puzzle, because I find that one of the most relaxing things I could ever be doing. So I save them up and I do them on long-haul flights. Metaphysical.
I find it so frustrating, Ken. Do you do
it?
Oh,
I love it. Yeah, I do it. And I do only Wednesday to Sunday because I don't like Monday and Tuesdays.
Monday and Tuesday. There's a whole other show here.
Yeah. Metaphysical travel, I put in my backpack curiosity and open-mindedness. Ready to learn, ready to see, ready to explore.
Chris and Kyle, what goes in your backpack?
Go for it.
So if we're talking about some of the physical things, obviously something for some nutrition, hydration, that whole part, because we can't get very far without that. And then for me, like ultimately grit and endurance, the ability to manage emotions physically, all of those things are essential for any sort of journey, business journey, life journey, those types of things. And then, there's also like this whole, like I have to defend myself against the world part of my brain that happens. So it's usually some sort of a weapon that might be in there, just in case it were to get sideways at any point in time. But
really,
just for protection purposes.
But like a mace, like medieval, or what's your choice?
No, usually a little bit more mechanical. Yeah. Usually shoots things at a faster rate. Yeah.
Y'all are dangerous. Like some kind of an air gun.
Like a BB gun,
Yeah. Airsoft.
Or one of those ones that shoots rubber bands.
Yes.
I gotcha.
Those are good. Yeah. Those are good for the kids.
Guns that shoot salt even. Huh?
Well, my dad used to travel all over the country, and he would always bring me back a gift. And like usually they were fine, appropriate. Like I actually liked them. But one time I didn't even know what he was thinking. something like that to like an 11-year-old, the neighbors were like really not happy.